are ready to begin. We have people in person, socially distant, and we have people on Zoom. So everybody comes together to learn, to ask, to explore. And we have our moderator, Mr. David Waltuck, the voice of JLI. And he will be moderating and doing the readings. All questions are good questions, but just there's thank God, a large audience in person and on Zoom. So the easiest way to facilitate questions if you text, and then David will ask accordingly. Before we begin, just to acknowledge, we believe, according to Jewish tradition, that a person, a soul, and this was actually the previous JLI class we had, a soul never dies. True, physically, a person can be buried, but what the person stands for, their values, their neshama, their spirituality, that remains eternal. And having said that, we like to do mitzvot, we like to do good deeds in honor of people who pass away. So this week we dedicate the class to three magnificent souls who have left an eternal, indelible lesson upon all the hearts who they came into contact with. And each of them had a different response to anti-Semitism. There was Michael Carr, who came to America, was not born in America. He came to America at age 5. His parents fled the former Soviet Union, Russia. Russia was an oppressive regime where Jews were persecuted, hunted down, beat up. There was pogroms. But when he came to America, he embraced the great American dream, and he was very ethical in his business practice. And because of that, people knew that there's a Jewish man who represents values, integrity. We also have the yahrzeit this week of Kathy Glickstein. And although Kathy, she didn't leave any physical children, she left thousands upon thousands of mourners, of orphans, because she touched the lives of so many people. She was able to make a profound difference. Her kindness, her genuine concern for others. She will always be remembered, because life is not measured by the physical years we live. Life is measured by the impact we make. And her mark will always be felt. And tonight, we acknowledge the neshama, the soul of Abe Hallen's mother, Yehudit, the daughter of Mordechai. Her family, her siblings perished in Treblinka. She was born in Poland, and she raised a beautiful family. And she was a proud Jewish lady. And Yehudit, her name means Jewish, she didn't hide her Judaism. And because she was so committed to the Jewish people, it was her son, our Abe Allen, who was responsible for redeeming. Can you imagine this? For thousands of years, we pray, wherever you are in the world, towards Jerusalem, towards the Western Wall. Her son was from the very few Israeli paratroopers who liberated the Western Wall. Every time you pray, 3 times a day, you're facing the Western Wall, brought to you by Abe Hallen and the IDF. All three, then the neshamas should be blessed, and our learning tonight should be a mitzvah in their merits. So tonight, we're talking about outsmarting anti-Semitism. And I think it's very unfortunate. I wish that tonight I could speak about anti-Semitism as part of history, not contemporary studies. But unfortunately, and we're going to delve into this tonight, there has been an increase in anti-Semitic attacks, which is very unfortunate. When you think about it for a second, the last 50 years ago, we live in such a democracy. We live in such a blessed nation, a nation where we can be free, where we can soar, where we can fulfill our ambitions. And unfortunately, now we see that there is an increase. What does this mean? How does this affect us? And how do we combat it? This is what the 4 courses of JLI are going to address in a very professional, in a very measured way. Because responding to anti-Semitism is, my friends, is a science. And there's something which really, when I speak to you, I'm not just speaking to you as an individual, I'm speaking to you as the son of a Holocaust survivor. And the Holocaust is obviously something very close to my heart. I never knew my grandparents. I grew up without grandparents. I grew up without anyone in my father's immediate family. They were all murdered for the crime of being Jewish. So obviously, the Holocaust is something very special. And I want, on a personal level, to add in and to explain what it means and how should we respond. And Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, in any way, shape, or form, I don't minimize the Holocaust. But, and this is a very key component, we are not just Jewish, as we will see tonight, because the anti-Semites define us as Jews. We are not a reaction to hatred, God forbid. We are not Jewish because they put a yellow star on our clothing. We are Jewish because we have values, because we have Jewish tradition, because we can wear clothes with pride, with dignity, with purpose. We are Jewish, not as a result of negativity. We are Jewish because we have a message to share with the world. And that is a message of hope. That is a message of meaning. And for me, it's fascinating. In 1946, the Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, he was a Holocaust survivor. His father sadly perished in captivity in a gulag. He was taken away, banished, because he wouldn't buckle to the evil communists. But his grandmother, his brother was killed, murdered by the Nazis. And he had a cousin in France. And his cousin in France said, help me raise money to establish a Holocaust memorial. And the Rebbe said, first we need to take that money, those much needed funds, and create educational opportunities for our kids. Now put this into context. We are not saying, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, you shouldn't forget the Holocaust. Never again rings true. But to say that we just erect beautiful memories of the 6 million Kadeshim, holy people, my grandparents, who perished, that's not all what we do. We have to educate the young. We have to bring pride. We have to respond with light, with love, with laughter. Our tagline for our Hebrew school, thank God, which is bursting at the seams, is I love being Jewish. We want every single one of our kids to enjoy the thrill of being Jewish, the excitement of what it means to be Jewish. My friends, tonight we are going to begin our journey. And it's a very thorough journey. And this journey is something which is beyond never again. It is a journey where we will understand, appreciate how to respond to anti-Semitism. When is it smart? When is it prudent to make a big fuss? When should we resort to quiet diplomacy? This is all going to be discussed, as we will see. We're going to outline. When someone is anti-Israel, does that mean they're anti-Jewish? All these questions we're going to shortly bring up, so we'll understand the scope, which is very thorough. In no way, shape, or form, chas v'shalom, am I trying to be disrespectful? God forbid, to the Holocaust. It's in my family. But, and the Holocaust on a personal level is something which inspires me. I believe in holy revenge. I believe in lighting a candle to overcome the darkness. My dad, of blessed memory, was in 7 concentration camps. And my father was a happy man. He wasn't a victim. And when he put on tefillin, the black boxes, the phylacteries in the morning, he put on tefillin. This is for Seret. This is for Buchenwald. This is for Theresen. He went through the 7 camps, which he had gone through, and each camp, his response was to live life to the fullest, and that is holy revenge. You killed my mother, you killed my father, you killed my brother, you killed my sister. I'm going to get married at a young age in a very lonely, dark world, and I'm going to rebuild what you took away, and with a vengeance, we respond to darkness with light. And that is my hope, to share with you a upbeat, positive response to anti-Semitism. The Holocaust is very, very unique, as we'll discuss later on in lesson 4. You know, now in the news, people are using the Holocaust as comparing. We will have the Jewish take, the Talmudic take. Thank God we have thousands and thousands of years of experience of enduring. We have thousands and thousands of years of what it means to be alive and how we survive to learn from. So actually, when you think about it, to have 4 classes for thousands of years, the miracle of the Jewish people, that in itself is a very tall order. But we're going to give it our best. And I'm humbled for everyone to join us. Thank God we have a huge participation. And we're going to be on for the next 3, not including tonight, 3 Wednesdays. Those of you who have the link and haven't officially signed in, just sign in, because of this way, if there's a change or we can update or we can send you information via the internet, we have a record so we can contact you. And having said that, I turn over the mic to the voice of JLI, my friend and yours, Mr. David Waltuck, on student page number 3, figure 1.1. David, bring it on.
Thank you, Rabbi. So do you want me to start off with 1A on page 2? Or?
Yes, yeah, that would be good. That would be
okay.
Good. Yes.
So welcome, everyone, to Outsmarting Anti-Semitism. This is going to be an empowering new course from the Rohr Jewish Learning Institute on how to beat anti-Semitism with purpose, positivity, and pride. The topic of this course is, unfortunately, quite relevant. Over the past 2 decades, a fresh surge of anti-Semitic incidents has been seen in numerous countries. Leaving the UK in the past 2 years, answering the question, in the past 2 years, I have considered leaving Britain due to anti-Semitism. 31% agree with that in 2019.
And let's do, please, figure 1.2.
Public displays of Judaism in the UK. So the question was, due to anti-Semitism, I try not to show visible signs of my Judaism when I go out like a Star of David or a Jewish kippah. In 2019, 22% agreed.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And now on page 5, please.
Anti-Semitic incidents in the United States from 2009 to 2019. So you can see there's been a dramatic rise, especially from 2013 to 2019.
Okay, terrific. I mean, not terrific, it's sad and pathetic, but we understand that anti-Semitism is a very serious problem, and the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, they point something fascinating out, which we're going to read shortly from Abe Foxman, and that is that even though there's an increase in anti-Semitic incidents, even though there's an increase in more attacks on Jews, that doesn't reflect how many people are anti-Semitic. There is a difference between attacks and the general American population, which we will see shortly. So just keep that in mind, that this is something we are going to discuss. Now, on page 8, there was the recent Pew research. They asked, what is essential to being Jewish? And lo and behold, on page 8, remembering the Holocaust was the leader. And number 2 is leading an ethical and moral life. Now, being part of a Jewish community was 33%. Observing Jewish law was 15%. Unfortunately, and you know, we have to learn from history. This is a learning opportunity. But for many Jews, their Judaism is a response to negativity. When parents bemoan, when parents cry, oy vey, it's terrible, it's difficult. It's schwer zu sein a Yid. It's hard to be a Jew. And the kids hear that. You know what happens? Why would a kid want to be part of a people who, sadly, are always persecuted? Why would a kid want to be part of a nation which is hunted down and exterminated just 70 years ago? So for us, we want to obviously understand anti-Semitism and stress the positivity and understand the statistics properly. For me, there is a beautiful quote. You know, the American eagle. The American eagle says it all. Why? For me, the Talmud speaks about the American eagle. God took us out of Egypt. We're on the back of an eagle. Do you know there's a bird, the raven, that attacks the eagle? And the raven claws its way on the eagle's neck. Do you know what the eagle does? What the eagle responds to the attacks of a raven? An eagle flies higher and higher, spreads out its wings, and flaps its way, soars into the heavens. The raven can't handle it. The raven can't handle the change in altitude, and the raven just falls away. My friends, it says in Tanya is a book of Hasidic mysticism. Everyone has thoughts, impulses, which they go through, and life is about balancing and how to control one's mind and one's thoughts. My friends, when you fight with someone dirty, you get dirty. When you indulge with someone who is despicable and wants to kill you, you have to really think, what is the smartest response, which we're going to speak about in this course. The eagle brilliantly does away with the raven, not by wasting its time battling the raven, but by flying higher, by raising the eagle's wings, by soaring higher. When you soar higher, automatically the schmutz, the garbage, goes away. This class is going to give you a fresh perspective of what it means and how do we soar higher. And when, I'm not saying you never respond. This is Judaism. We don't believe in turning the other cheek. When do you respond? How do you respond? That we'll see. We got 4 weeks, 4 classes to work it out. But my friends, all questions are good. And 1A, text 1A is very special to me. Deborah Lipstadt is no stranger to Columbus, Ohio. Deborah Lipstadt has spoken in Columbus, Ohio. I personally adore her. I like her very much. And I like her for selfish reasons. Confessions of a Chabad rabbi. Because I met her, I don't know, maybe it was 8 years ago, something like that. She was at a JLI retreat and she wrote a book. And I said, my dad's a Holocaust survivor. Can you please write a message to my dad? And she speaks Hebrew really well. And she wrote a message to my dad. My dad was alive, and I was very appreciative. But if I could please indulge in listening to the voice of JLI, my friend and yours, David Waltuck, to read this brilliant, for me, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but when something's good, it's good. On page 9, David, if you could please read 1A, what Deborah Lipstadt writes.
Hope I can do it justice, Rabbi. So most Jews will immediately step forward when Jews anywhere are being attacked by anti-Semites. This is, of course, as it should be. What is regrettable, however, is that for some Jews, the fight against anti-Semitism becomes the sum total of their Jewish identity. Recently, a much-respected Jewish communal leader lamented to me that he regretted not having educated his children about Jewish traditions and culture. He was, however, very proud of the fact that he had embedded within them a total intolerance of anti-Semitism. His kids were prepared to be at the barricades to do battle against this hatred and many others as well. His comments made me sad. Anti-Semitism has become the drummer to which his family's Jewish identity marches. They know of a Jew as object, not subject. In other words, what is done to Jews becomes far more significant than what Jews do. This well-intentioned Jewish father has deprived his children of a rich and multifaceted legacy. They've been taught to see themselves mainly as perennial victims. This cedes to the oppressor control over one's destiny. It leaves many Jews, including this man's children, aware of what it is what to be against, but not what to be for.
Yeah, she's very eloquent, and she says it the way it is. And brilliantly put, please, David, on page 10, text 1B.
Okay, this one's by Barry Weiss. The Jewish people were not put on earth to be anti-Semites. They were put on earth. They were not put on earth to be anti-Semites. They were put on earth to be Jews.
It's brilliant. We're not a response to negativity. We have something good. We have an identity. We don't have to just be Jewish because we're forced to wear a yellow star. We can have a yarmulke. We can have tzitzis. We can have opportunities. You know, it warms my heart. We have in the audience, in the live audience, we have people who volunteer, and some every single day. He knows who I'm talking about. And then we have Roger also. And then we have people who volunteer every single day at Lifetown. You know what that is? It's unbelievable. Now, Confessions of a Chabad Rabbi. We have kind of horror between 50 and 75 kids, inner city kids with disabilities. And I am a little selfish because I always want to be the one. I try, not every day, to open up the door to the kids getting off the school buses. And you know why I do that? I do it because I want them to see someone who looks incredibly Jewish. A yarmulke, a beard, and I got the tzitzis, I got the strings hanging out of my pants. These kids have never seen a Jew before. I don't think so. And they see that there was a Jew who was nice to them. Jewish people are kind people. You don't believe me? Go to Ohio State and look at the top donations, the buildings, they're Jewish. We like to help people. I have a friend, a very magnificent friend. He comes from a little city. I'm not going to say which city because you can work out who it is. And every single year, he pays for these kids in this little tiny city. He gives them scholarships to go to university. I said, did you tell him you're Jewish? Because he passes them the scholarship. He said, no. I said, what are you doing? You're giving away money anyway. Can't you make it good? They see you. It's not like it's a secret. You give them the scholarships. They're all not Jewish. It's a little tiny city in Ohio, and he's paying for kids, 6 kids, to go to university. Just tell them you're Jewish. So they're going to say a Jew was nice to them. If you're doing it anyway, you might as well stress that your Jewish tradition is the reason you're doing this. Because people have to know that it really does take a village to raise a child. And we're all responsible for our kids. And for me, Lifetown is my mitzvah. I try to educate everyone and to help everyone. And because the Rebbe said that someone else's physical problem is my spiritual problem. But having said that, if we can help the Jewish people as a result of the mitzvah, this guy's giving scholarships to inner city kids to go to university, at least tell them that you're Jewish. What's it going to hurt? So we are one community. We are one people. And we have different traditions, we have different religions, but we're all made in the image of God, and we have to learn to get along. And particularly because we live in a time which is so painfully polarizing. And we have to build bridges, but not just build bridges, we have to cross over the bridges. So this class, this series, is going to explain how do we respond, how do we build a bridge, how do we cross over a bridge, and what is the makeup? What is the makeup of anti-Semitism, and when and how do we respond? Having said that, I spoke enough. Please, David, student page 11. Please, if you could tell everyone.
Sure.
What. Yeah.
So the course's driving questions are as follows. Number 1, what are some tools for coping with fears triggered by anti-Semitism? Number 2, what role does faith play in addressing anti-Semitism? Number 3, what are the best strategies to reduce anti-Semitism? Number 4, what are the root causes of anti-Semitism, and how does identifying these factors impact our efforts to prevent the hatred? Number 5, how can we counter Israel-focused anti-Semitism, and how can we determine when criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic? Number 6, how can we forestall well-meaning Jewish youth from unwittingly lending their voices to anti-Semitic agendas? Number 7, what's the best strategy for dealing with a public figure who has taken an unfavorable position toward us?
So, my friends, let's go, please, to page number 12. And David, let's ask these questions. And everyone on their own, those of you who have a book can jot it down. And those of I apologize if the book hasn't come to you yet. Page number 12. Here, David, please.
Chapter 3, the only thing to fear. So the first step in this course is to analyze the natural, emotional, and practical reactions to anti-Semitism. So ask yourself, have you or anyone close to you recently been the victim of a verbal or physical anti-Semitic assault? Yes or no? If no, consider a recent anti-Semitic incident that you heard about. Okay. Next question is, what were your immediate feelings after the incident? And number 3, what were some actions that you or others around you took as a result of the incident?
So those of you, you can message into David and he'll read it. What were your immediate feelings after the incident? Or let's say you didn't have, if you're very lucky, an anti-Semitic incident. Can you message David? What would feelings be? What responses? You could, if you, but message David, and David will say as they come in. David, you have any yet?
Yep.
Okay.
So Steve writes, news, revulsion, helplessness. Ellen writes, today is the yard site of the Tree of Life in Pittsburgh.
Yes, which I when we spoke about an increase, thank you for bringing that up. The 11 martyrs, that's very important. There were 2 in America. Obviously, we feel anti-Semitism more when people are gunned down for the sin of going to pray in a synagogue. Of course, we feel more vulnerable. And when in a Chabad house, and that was in Pittsburgh, today's the yard site, and half a year later, when lady Lori Kay was killed, one lady, and the synagogue at Chabad House near San Diego had to run away because a madman, a shooter, came in with anti-Semitic motives. So the first answer is what's the first answer we
news had? And the kind of the incidents are all in the news, and I think Steve's reaction is revulsion and then helplessness.
Okay. Anything else? Any other? You could text. How about anger? Anger. People felt angry. What else? There's one I'm looking for. What else could you feel? A human. I'm not saying you particularly, or a human response to being plowed down just because you have a particular belief. Betrayed. Okay. Anger.
Sadness.
Okay.
And we also have Jordana was called an obscene, derogatory word that made feel very angry.
Angry, yes, and anxiety, fear. Now, I want to qualify this. This is very, very important for me. Chas v'shalom, God forbid, we don't minimize people's feelings. We don't. But having said that, I heard once a beautiful saying, and it's so true. Pain is real. If someone has pain, you can't say you don't have pain. If someone feels something, that's their feelings. They feel pain. But fear is imaginary. Fear. I fear something. That doesn't mean that it exists. I'm scared, but that doesn't mean that something necessarily has to happen to me. Pain is real. Fear is imaginary. Now, having said that, David, can you please read? Page 13, text number 2.
Okay, but I'm not going to try and butcher the Hebrew, okay?
Okay, no, you're good.
It is stated in the book of Ben Sira, do not allow anxiety into your heart, for anxiety has killed the mighty. King Solomon said the same. If there is anxiety in your heart, quash it.
Okay. This is very, very profound, because There are different interpretations in the Talmud. What does it mean? How do we interpret those words? One is, obviously, fear drags us down. It paralyzes us, and that's no good. Now, you must, if there's an elephant in the room, you will respond. That's good. But to do nothing and to be dismayed and to throw up your hands in defeat, that is a problem. Judaism believes in action. Judaism believes in a response. Now, having said that, when a person totally believes in God, you don't really have to worry. You don't really have to be scared. The Talmud in Sanhedrin, which we just quoted, the Talmud says in the Hebrew, it explains there are two responses. One is to take your mind off it, because it's just anxiety. It doesn't help to engage in anxiety. In that book, Tanya, it speaks about when you have an impulse, when you have a bad thought, you know what the best way to respond to that is? Push it out of your mind with two hands. I know an expert OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, doctor from Harvard University, who was the consultant to the Aviator, to Howard Hughes. He runs the entire department in Harvard University. And he told me that the best response to OCD, when you get those thoughts, is to throw them out of your mind. And Tanya, what he says, and he's a big doctor, what he says was written 200 years ago by the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad rabbi, who says, push them out of your mind with two hands. Anything which leads to depression, to apathy, to wanting to go to sleep is not good. So one thing is, take your mind off it. That's number one. The other interpretation of the Talmud is, speak about it. Don't quash your feelings. Find a friend. Find someone who loves you, who cares about you. Find a therapist. It's very healthy. It's very important. People need to speak. When you speak about your problems, it's not just your problem. They're helping you carry your burden. And that is productive. So let's go on. And now, thank God, we have something which is amazing. On page number 14, if you know, there are many debates, questions, understanding, is there a God? You know, in Judaism, all questions are good. We like questions. And you want to know a miracle? You're staring at it. You. Because each and every one of you who is Jewish should not really be alive. It doesn't make sense. You've all seen Mark Twain's quote. You've all heard about that. You've all heard about the miracle of the Jewish people, a sheep which is surrounded by 70 hungry wolves. Our existence is miraculous. The Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, there was a rabbi in 1990 who was sadly playing on the fear of the Jews right before Desert Storm. And this rabbi very sadly said, there will be a nuclear holocaust because there are secular Jews in the kibbutz who are eating ham. The Lubavitcher Rebbe of blessed memory, on Hey Nisan, the 5th day of Nisan, 1990, Tafshin Nun, the Rebbe said, how dare you mess with the Jewish people? The fact that even if there's a secular Jew in Israel who just merely roams the land of Israel, the mere fact that a Jew exists, that is the greatest testimony to the reality that there's a God in the world. The Rebbe said, it was Pashas Vayikra, Zu Yatzarti Li, this nation which I have formed. Tielasi Yisaperu. They don't have to do anything. They just have to exist. They just have to live in the kibbutz in Israel. I'm not advocating that people should be secular and eat ham in the kibbutz. I don't want to get taken out of context. But the Rebbe said the fact that the Jew exists in the first place is a great testimony to the reality that there's a God in the world. Unbelievable. The Rebbe took anxiety and addressed what we should understand is the miracle of our people. So, David, please do from Deborah Lipstadt. She's back on page 14, text 3.
Miraculous people. The call to reduce anxiety should not be misconstrued as an attempt to ignore reality and to bask in ignorance's bliss. Rather, it addresses a genuine need for the sake of channeling our concerns constructively. One particularly effective method of accomplishing this is to reflect on the miracle of Jewish survival. The historical anomaly. The fact that we're here is such a historical anomaly, it makes no sense. So sometimes when I'm asked about anti-Semitism, people will say, well, how can you be optimistic in all this? How can you see the positive? It's such a dreary situation. And I say, because we shouldn't be here. And the fact that we are here shouldn't be taken for granted.
It's amazing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. A quote like that is worth everything. So let me tell you something. The Rebbe in 1990, I was there when the Rebbe said that at Farbrengen, at a Hasidic gathering. In the year 1168, the Jews in Yemen were torn apart with persecution, with 3 problems. The Jews in Yemen had 3 problems. They were told by the Muslim cleric at the time, convert to Islam or be killed, number 1. There was a Jew, a rabbi, who embraced Islam, and he said all the Jews should embrace Islam. And thirdly, there was another rabbi who said he is the Messiah, and he wasn't. Can you imagine? The Jews in Yemen, they got problems. The Jews in Yemen, vey. The Jews in Yemen, they got issues. So there was a rabbi, just like the Rebbe in 1990 addressed the situation in Israel. There was a rabbi who had horrible problems, whose brother drowned at sea, who didn't have enough money to pay for his family, who was forced to flee from the persecution in Morocco. He was forced to go to Egypt, where he became the doctor. He had to reinvent himself. He became a doctor to the Sultan in Egypt. This rabbi, Maimonides, we love Rambam. Chabad with diehard Maimonides. We love him because and that's why Chabad rabbis study 3 chapters a day, Maimonides, or 1 chapter a day. We're students, the Rebbe loved Maimonides. As busy, as difficult the life of Rambam Maimonides was, in the year 1168, he penned a response to the Jews of Yemen. And it's such a beautiful response that it became Igeras Taman, the letter of Taman. Maimonides, as busy as he was, took the Jews in Yemen who were in a dismal, painful situation, and he lifted them up. He gave them hope. Rather than letting them crumble in the face of adversity, he lifted their spirits. And this is what he said. Please, David, it's so exciting. I can't wait to hear. On page 15, text 4.
God assured our father Jacob early on that although the nations would enslave his descendants, treat them cruelly, and subjugate them, His children would survive and endure, whereas those who enslaved them would eventually disappear. God told him, "Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. Although they are destined to be trampled and downtrodden, as everyone tramples the dust of the earth, they will overcome and triumph in the end." Just as, to continue the analogy, that dust eventually rises over those who trampled upon it when their corpses are buried, so Israel will remain in existence, whereas those who have trodden upon her will not. The Creator similarly assures us through his prophets that we will never be destroyed, that he will never permit our annihilation, and that we will never stray from being a nation devoted to its purpose. Just as it is impossible for God's own existence to be nullified, so is it impossible that we should be destroyed and eliminated from the world. So spoke Malachi, "I am God, and I have not changed, and you, the children of Jacob, have not been destroyed."
Amazing. So many times have we almost perished. The persecutor is gone. Roman Empire, Greek Empire, Byzantines, you name it. They're the past tense. They don't exist. And the tiny little Jew is here to stay. Another one bites the dust. Dust is trampled upon. Dust is not taken seriously, but it is the dust which rests upon the enemies of the Jews, who are horizontally laid to be buried and forgotten in the annals of history, That's why we're compared to dust. Easy to persecute, easy to tread on. But Rambam Maimonides says, we are the ones who are going to win. We are the ones who will outlast our enemies. How profound. There's an eternal promise, and we, the sheep, surrounded by 70 hungry wolves, we are not going to be obliterated. And this happens throughout Jewish history. When Jacob's running away from his evil brother Esau, same deal. God says, you are eternal. You're going to be okay. Let's continue on, please, because really, I don't want to take things out of consideration. And this is, thank God for the ADL. Thank God for the ADL. Because this is something fascinating and shouldn't be taken out of context. The incidents of anti-Semitism they rise. There's more incidents, but the American people are less anti-Semitic. It's amazing. The American people are less anti-Semitic. In 1964, there were questions which were asked, survey, 29% of the people who were asked, they responded, and you'll see the exact details, with negativity, with anti-Semitic content. Now in the year 2019, it went down from 29% to 11%, which means that even though there's an uptick in incidents, 11% nationwide, the American people have become less anti-Semitic, which is amazing. Yeah, incidents. Yeah, you have the internet, so you can get all the crazies out much easier. But the American people have not become more anti-Semitic. Please, David, if you could read student page number 18.
17 or 18?
You tell me. I missed 17. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Sure, of course. Consider the full picture. We're living in much better times for Jews than in previous generations. The vast majority of Jews do not live under anti-Semitic regimes. And while individual acts of anti-Semitism have risen, fewer people overall harbor anti-Semitic sentiments than previously. This knowledge should help reduce our panic. So the page 18 says, stereotypes about the Jews, kind of index questions.
Yeah, this is the questionnaire which the ADL has made since 1964. Yeah, please.
So the first one is, Jews stick together more than other Americans. Jews always like to be at the head of things. Jews are more loyal to Israel than to America. Jews have too much power in the business world. Jews have too much control and influence on Wall Street. Jews are just as honest as other business people. Probably false. Jews don't care what happens to anyone but their own kind. Jews have too much power in the United States today. Jewish businessmen are so shrewd that other people do not have a fair chance at competition. Jews are more willing than others to use shady practices to get what they want, and Jews have a lot of irritating faults.
So what's fascinating is the survey has dropped dramatically from 29% to 11%, which that's good news. That's very, very good news. Now, we believe that it's very important for us, as we spoke about, if, let's say, there's no more anti-Semitism. Let's say there's peace in the Middle East. And I hate to do this because if someone does something good, they should be complimented and they should be applauded and pat on the back. But if all these negative problems go away, then why are we Jewish? That's only if being Jewish, like we started the class, is a response to anti-Semitism. But if being Jewish is because we have a message, if being Jewish is because we believe in morality, because we believe we are, as we will see throughout the class, we are in the coal mine, when you have a miner, the famous example, when you have a coal miner, he has a bird. He has a bird which is much more sensitive to a lack in oxygen, the canary. And the canary dies first, and the coal miner knows, get out, because it's dangerous. If we understand, this is very, very important, if we understand that being Jewish isn't just because people hate us, because there's the neighbors in the Middle East surrounding Israel want to gobble us up. If all we are is a response to negativity, it's not good. It's sad. Now, I will tell you this, and for me, this is important. I personally believe this passionately. Anyone who hates Jews hates America and the values this nation was created on. I'll repeat that again. Anyone who hates Israel hates America. Why do I say that? Just look at history. When the Iran hostage crisis happened with the Israeli embassy, when the Shah fled and Ayatollah Khamenei took over, they took this, they took this Israeli embassy. It's not my problem. What do you want from me? It's Israel's got to worry about it. Hey. The American embassy was next. If you hate Jews, you hate people with values. Don't believe me? Look, Nebuch, I hate to do this. Look in Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler's book he wrote in jail. Look in there. You'll see for yourself. I hate the Jews with their self-denying commandments. That's what he says. You know why he hates the Jews? Because the Jews don't want him to enjoy his sin. That damn Jew is standing there pointing his finger. Can't do this, and you can't do that. And you can't do this. I don't need a conscience. I grew up, mom's gone, leave me alone. That's what an anti-Semite is. Because Jews represent values. We are not just a response to anti-Semitism. We have a mission. We have a purpose. We have to share values with the world. Now, Chabad, we are in a very interesting position. For many, I don't want to stereotype, but for many religious Jews, when they look at us, hey, are you really religious? You're in the secular world. What are you doing in New Albany? It's a country club community. And for the secular Jews, hey, this guy's really religious. He got the whole outfit, the whole, Chabad, where do you fit in? This class is so important because this class teaches us that the world wants us to be Jewish. And we're going to speak about this. We have another 3 classes to go. Don't be ashamed of your Jewish identity. An anti-Semite, he should be ashamed. Why do I have to drop my Judaism? Because he's full of hate and he is full of spite. And he hates Jews because we're Jewish. Maybe he should be ashamed. Maybe he should go hide in and shrivel up in his corner and stop hating Israel and stop hating then America and stop hating good valued people. Why do I have to stop being Jewish as a response to him? I'm not just Jewish because the anti-Semites told me to be Jewish. I'm not pro-Israel because our hostile neighbors in the Middle East want to eat me up and throw me away. I'm Jewish because of the values, the positive values. And if you don't believe me, go ask Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, his name should be obliterated, and all those other lowlifes. We're Jewish as for a reason, because we have values. You don't respond, and I don't want to go on and on, but it's just something very close to my heart. I have a brother-in-law. My brother-in-law lives in Melbourne, Australia. His name is Rabbi Mordechai Schmerling. Rabbi Mordechai Schmerling is a brilliant man. He's a Talmudic scholar, and he came in 1984 to be by the Lubavitcher Rebbe to study, to get smicha. And every Friday, Chabad rabbis go out and share the mitzvot, share Judaism with other Jews. He went into a place in Manhattan. He met an old Jew, and he said, "You want to put on tefillin?" So the old Jew said, "Tefillin? Ich hab nicht gelegt tefillin for the Krieg. I haven't put on tefillin before the war, before the Holocaust. And when I wore tefillin, I had a wife and kid. My wife and my kids were murdered in front of my eyes. Why would I want to put on tefillin?" You want me to thank God? So my brother-in-law, you have to, with a Holocaust survivor, whatever they say, it's kosher, it's beautiful. We can't judge them. They're holy people. The fact that they exist is a miracle, a real miracle. The Holocaust survivor is referred to on my dad's mitzvah, my dad's stone. It says, Ud mutzal me'esh. It comes from a haftorah, from the prophets. It says, a fire band which was snatched away from the fire. The fact that a Holocaust survivor exists, he could be Reb Zalman Sarabransky said he could be the biggest disbeliever, he could be the biggest atheist. He is holy. Holy. He was grabbed out of an inferno. So my brother-in-law is very respectful, but he's told the Jew, he said, one second. Hitler said, to be a Jew is disgusting. But you know what's more disgusting? To be a religious Jew. Hitler doesn't want you to put on tefillin. He doesn't want you alive. He doesn't want you alive, but how much more so, he doesn't want you to be Jewish. Right there and then, this holy Jew put on tefillin. So Mordechai, he said, let's go to the back of the store. We'll put it in the back. He said, no. We're putting on tefillin in the middle of the store. If I'm Jewish, why do I have to apologize for being Jewish? Why can't I be a proud Jew? I have to apologize. But why? Because the anti-Semite wants me dead. So you think it's going to help if I hide my Judaism? Hanukkah's coming, my friends, and there's no one in the world who knows how to flaunt their Judaism like Chabad. If you don't believe me, fasten your safety belt. You're about to find out. We have a stuntman who's going to be jumping, parachuting out of an airplane, so help me God. He's going to land right down the street, a mile away in New Albany, Eagle Arena, Veterans Arena, where they have the sport football games. He's lighting the menorah. And I am so proud of our community. We're going to have 1,000 people there. Oh, you have to be crazy not to see a stuntman jump out of an airplane. And then we're going to have, so on Sunday, last Thanksgiving weekend, we're going to have a chocolate turkey, of course, drop. This is the world's only chocolate turkey dreidel drop. Well, I'm going to apologize for being Jewish because some anti-Semite doesn't like me. Are you kidding? This is America. This is the Rebbe's response to darkness. You're going to find out. I'm going to tell you later. It's a big secret, Gino. This is classified information, but I'm going to whisper you the answer. But the thing is, I don't need to apologize for being Jewish because you hate my guts because I'm Jewish. I don't have to apologize that God gave me a book called the Torah and you don't like what's in the Torah. So you know what? I'm going to hide my Judaism. No way, man. You go hide. You go shrivel up in your house. Why do I have to apologize for being Jewish? Meshuggah, you crazy? You want to give him a victory? Okay, you got to be safe. You know, we have security. We have full-time security. God bless America. They help us have full-time security. We have full-time security here. But, you know, I have to apologize for being Jewish. Maybe he should apologize for being a bigot and a hater of people. Someone who hates values, hates all values. Someone who despises people, hates all people. Hitler, who were the first people? I don't want to go on and on, but who was the first person? Who was the first target of Hitler? You know who Hitler's first target was? People who are mentally challenged because they don't represent the Aryan race. He was a great believer in survival of the fittest. You don't measure up to my Aryan race. It's not like he was so handsome and blonde hair and blue eyes. I got blue eyes, you know, but it's not. My daughter tells me it's ocean eyes. Yeah, so I'm learning something new every day. But you know, it's not like we measure people because the way they look. The whole idea of Hanukkah, we'll speak about it later, is the spiritual, not the physical, not the coarse. To look at the soul, to appreciate the neshama, the pintele yid. That's what it means to be Jewish. To look at a human being who has a disability. Don't see the disability. See a soul. See a beautiful child. And who am I to tell you, the holy volunteers at Lifetown, I'm telling you what it means to be a lover of human beings and to see the soul and not the disability and not the handicap. That's what it's about. So I'm sorry for going on and on. But on page 20, here we have it. My friend and yours, Mr. David Waltuck.
Attitudes toward Jews. It's heartening that attitude towards Jews have improved over the last few years and historically have declined significantly in America, said Abraham H. Foxman, ADL National Director. On the occasion of our centennial, it causes us to take a broader perspective, to appreciate how far we have come in 100 years. In 1913, there were no surveys like this, but anti-Semitism was rife in public and private expressions. In universities, jobs, and neighborhoods. In 1964, when we did our first survey, we found that 29% of Americans held anti-Semitic views. So we, and America, have made real progress.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So my friends, thank God we're making progress. So it doesn't mean that everything's tremendous, because we still have more incidents of anti-Semitism. But we are doing our job to educate the people. We are the canary in the mine. Now, this is amazing. Let me ask you a question. What is the most repeated two-word phrase in the entire Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, Tanakh? In all the 24 books of the Torah, what is the most repeated phrase? Who knows? This is hard. I would never know this. What do you think it is? Okay, this is hard. I'll tell you. You know what it is? Al Tira, do not fear. 44 times in the Bible, 26 times in the plural, 110 times in Nach. That's a lot of times. Don't fear. King David, bless you. King David, he was a man who had a horrible life. King David, Nebuch, he suffered horribly. His life was full of sorrows, of pain, of agony, betrayals, plots, attempted assassination, coups. His family, his parents were killed. He got a lot of problems. Never taken seriously. Always the underdog. I love King David. And you know what he did with these problems? He created a book called Tehillim. The words pierce through the heavens. Each word is a key to the heavens above. And please, David, text number 6 on student page 21.
Mizmor LaDavid, a song of David. God is my shepherd. I shall not lack. He allows me to lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Even if I walk in the valley of death's shadow, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Indeed, God is my deliverance. I am confident that I shall not fear, for God is my strength and my praise, and he has been my salvation.
Okay, with that, we are going to show you the most incredible video. Amazing. Get ready.
In January 1948, in the dark hours of the Soviet Union, a child was born in Stelino who was destined to symbolize mighty struggles. A bitter, global struggle between the bald eagle and the brown bear in the throes of their Cold War. A lopsided struggle between terrifying tyranny and human rights, between brutally enforced atheism and the free soul of a believer, between monstrous anti-Semitism and a proud Jew, and between the temptation to collapse and the superhuman will to survive. Nathan Sharansky graduated from Moscow's Physical Technical Institute before joining the underground human rights movement, reclaiming his Jewish heritage and emerging as a foremost dissident and spokesman for human rights. In 1973, Nathan took the calculated risk of applying for an exit visa to Israel. He was denied and rose to the forefront of Jewish refusnik activities.
Well, I was in the middle of the struggle when the situation looked very dangerous, when some of my friends in Helsinki group were already arrested, when new wave of repressions against Jewish activists was clearly prepared. And at this time I received a note from my wife Avital through some American Jewish tourists. And together with this note, a small psalm book. And Avital writes that this psalm book was with me in the last year when I was trying to help you in different places in the world. And I have a feeling that the time has come to send it to you. And I opened the book and I can't read there anything because I never learned how to read these texts. And also, most of the words I don't know. Many of the words I know, about 1,000 words, mainly of our daily struggle, prison, repressions, demonstrations, but not these words. So I decided I don't have time for these small things when I'm very busy now in organizing demonstrations and press conferences, and almost forgot.
In 1977, he was arrested on false charges of spying for the United States. But prior to the announcement of his verdict, he famously declared, "To the court I have nothing to say. To my wife and the Jewish people I say, next year in Jerusalem." Sentenced to 13 years imprisonment, he spent the next 16 months some 1,600 miles away from Jerusalem, in Moscow's Lefortovo prison, often in solitary confinement and in a special torture cell, before being transferred to a Siberian labor camp.
They bring me the list of things that they confiscated, And there is mentioned this small black book, not in Russian. And I understand that they are talking about this psalm book, which was sent to by Vitali. And then I remember this note which is sent. And I demand that they'll give it to me. And it was a long struggle. 3 years after I was arrested, they returned this book to me, together with the telegram from my mother that my father passed away. And it's, of course, it's difficult when, it's always difficult, but when you cannot be with your family. And I decided that the only thing which I can do, I will be reading this psalm book until I understand. And so I'm reading these hundreds of thousands of words where I cannot understand where the sentence begins and ends, and cannot understand more than half of the words. And then simply comparing between different places of these words, I try to find out the connection between them. And it so happened that the first phrase from all these hundreds of thousands of words was a short phrase of 13 very short words, which I understood fully. That is the phrase, Gam ki elech bagay tzalamavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi. It's from the Psalm Kav Gimel, and when you'll go through the valley of shadow of death, you'll fear no evil because you are with me. And that was very powerful. It was very important for me. And each time when they were taking from me, I was fighting and on hunger strikes, refusing to work, sometimes refusing to eat until they'll bring it to me back.
He resisted and persisted with remarkable courage. His miracle dawned in 1986 when he was released in a prisoner exchange. Leading Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Shimon Peres, welcomed him to Jerusalem.
And even when they already took me from prison and replaced all my clothes, I was lying in the snow refusing to enter the airplane without getting this book back because I felt that all my strength is there. So that was the only piece of property which I took from prison, and all these years it's always with me, and it gives me a lot of strength.
The Hebrew phrases in Sharansky's Petite Black Book were authored 28 centuries earlier by King David, who reigned from the splendid city of which Sharansky dreamed, Jerusalem. It was he who crafted the powerful line of prophetic poetry that lent indestructible hope and undefeatable strength to endless generations of Jews in distress. Even if I must tread through a valley forged by death's own shadow, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. A fountain of eternal confidence generated on behalf of each Jew in every century in the face of the mightiest and most monstrous obstacles. You are not alone. God is with you. Walk with confidence. The Creator of the universe stands guard at your side.
Yeah. So my brother, may he be well. My brother was at the airport when Sharansky came. My brother told me it was so special. It was a great moment in his life to have thousands and thousands of brothers and sisters screaming for Shavu Banim L'Gvulam, that the words of Rachel, that the children will return to the boundary, to the border, to where they belong. This is hope. And I just two little important things. We're speaking about fear, overcoming anxiety. We just had Yossi Jacobson come to Columbus. He was amazing. And Steve Pollock, God bless him, he is sponsoring him to come back and to speak about how to have hope in the most dire of situations. When a person has to battle terminal illness, when a person has to battle challenges of putting food on the table, of their business sadly dwindling away. How do you have hope? How do you wake up in the morning with enthusiasm? Rabbi Jacobson is coming back. And Steve Pollock, may he live and be well. Thank you, Steve, for doing that. And also, on a personal level, we brought Nathan Sharansky to Ohio State University. I can't go into all the details now because we got a course to do, but I will tell you he's an amazing man. He's a humble man. He's a hero, modern day hero. When he came to Columbus, Ohio, we brought him in, we flew him in. He said, "Where's Gordon Zacks?" We have Gordon Zacks' cousin, Larry, here. Gordy Zacks was responsible for getting Nathan Sharansky, this hero, his freedom. It was God, which we'll see, but it was Gordon Zacks, Columbus, Ohio, who made it happen. He was very close with President Bush, and he was the one who made it happen. So, to have a video about Nathan Sharansky in Columbus, Ohio, not mention Gordy Zacks is wrong. So, my friends, this is very powerful, and I'm going to rush now because we only have 14 minutes, and I don't want to go over time. So let me just tell you like this. Saturday night, Shabbos is amazing. Shabbos breeds hope, enthusiasm, gives us purpose. Saturday night comes, oh my God, what are we going to do? Saturday night comes, we may have a Havdalah ceremony, we say goodbye to Shabbos. What comes out of our mouth? Hey, God says, hey, David, take it away. Number 20, page 22 is text 7.
Indeed, God is my deliverance. I am confident and I shall not fear, for God is my strength and my praise, and he has been my salvation.
Even though we have to go out into the week, even though we have to tread into the unknown, the secular, the mundane, don't be scared. God is with you. And then please, number 23 and number 8 and 9, please.
Whenever Jews are persecuted, the godly presence is, so to speak, persecuted along with them. As it is stated, in all of their pain, he is pained. Those who trust in God will be surrounded by benevolence.
Okay. I just want to tell you something which is very profound. And now I'm going to actually summarize this way we can get through this class. We can do it. I'm a rabbi. It's a reflex action. I can't help it. I got to tell you a story. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, he once went with his students and he saw a little kid crying. And the Baal Shem Tov went up to the little child and said, "Why are you crying?" And the kid said, "Because I'm playing hide and seek. And I'm playing hide and seek, and I'm hiding, and everybody gave up looking for me." The Baal Shem Tov gave him a candy and said, "You're going to be okay." The students asked the Baal Shem Tov, "You told us that everything happens for a purpose. What possible purpose could there be in this story? It's just a story." Baal Shem Tov said, "No, you don't get it. That story is the story of humanity. God created the world. God is playing hide and seek. He wants us to find him. He wants us to do a good deed, to discover God in the world." You know what the problem is? Sometimes some of us, I can only speak for myself, I gave up looking for God. I got distracted. I don't see God in the world. That's a problem. That kid crying is God. The Hebrew word for world is olam halim, lahalim, to conceal. God is hiding. How much do we have faith in God, and how much do we have to be proactive and do? So today's your lucky day. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, blessed memory, he explained so beautifully, ever so beautifully, the relationship with Esther. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to ask a question, and the Rebbe does this I'm giving you the kernel, nutshell, the kudas hatamsis, the essence of what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says the whole Purim story is very hard to understand. Esther married to the king, okay? Mordechai saves the king's life. There was an assassination plot. Saves the king's life. Mordechai finds out that Haman is going to kill the Jews. Yeah. So what does Esther say? She says, "Okay, I'll go to the king. I haven't been called to the king in a long time. If I go without permission, I get killed. So she says, get the Jews to fast for 3 days and then I'll go. What? You know, if someone's dying, we break Shabbos, we break Yom Kippur. There is no sanctity. The human life comes first. I'll fast for 3 days. If she fasts for 3 days, I need a fast for 3 days. But if she fasts for 3 days, she was a model. She won the beauty contest. What does she need a fast for 3 days? So what's going on? Why are you wasting opportunity? Why can't, it's politics, man. Everybody knows in Washington, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I saved the king's life, Mordechai. She's married to the king. The wife is always the boss. What's going on with the whole Purim story? You got time for this? The Rebbe comes along and the Rebbe says, it's called Megillat Esther. Megillah means to reveal. Giloi. Giloi means revelation. Esther means lahastir, to conceal. The story of Purim is a story of how we have to live our lives. We think, like a big chacham, we think, ooh, I gave a great speech. Ooh, I got a brilliant business advice. It's going to happen. I made it happen. I'm good. I went to the top university. Of course it's going to happen. It has to happen. Comes along the whole story of Megillah Esther. Megillah means legiloi, to reveal. Legalot, to reveal. Esther means conceal. Esther. Megillah Esther is, we will reveal what is hidden. That's Megillah Esther. Esther says, I can go, I'm just giving you the parable, the mashal that the Rebbe gives. I can go to a bank, and when I go to the bank, I can wait in line. I can be the first one in. And I can write a check for $100,000. Guess what? I could be the first one in line. I can write a beautiful check, but if there's not $100,000 in the account, it's going to bounce. Trust me, it happens. You got to make sure you got the cash in the account. You can advocate, you can use diplomacy. If you don't have money in the account, it's not happening. Using the medium of this world, we have to reveal what is hidden. God is the boss. The Jewish people had messed up their relationship. They went to a party. They had benefit from a party they shouldn't have had. The king Achashverosh was celebrating the demise of Jerusalem. He came dressed out as the high priest. He took out the vessels from the first temple. The Jews have no self-pride. They go to this party. Of course there's going to be problems. Esther says, let's put money in the account. Let's ask God to help us. But how can I ask God? It's not, I have to go through a medium. I have to go ask Achashverosh. You think it's Achashverosh who's the boss? It's God who's the boss. It's not just writing the check that makes the account work. Yeah, you have to write the check. You need money in the account. It's God who makes everything happen. Jewish people are an amazing people. It says that a Jew plants a seed and he prays that it's going to grow. The question is, how can you pray that it's going to grow? How can you pray? It's going to grow. You know, you put the seed in the ground, it grows, it decomposes, it grows. What's your problem? Everyone knows seeds grow. And the Rebbe says, no. You know what? The only reason the sun rises in the west and sets in the east every single day, I hope I got that right. I'm from Australia. We do things different. The only reason that happens is because God wants it to happen. The only reason the seed grows is because God wants it to happen. The only reason, thank God, we all woke up this morning because God wants us to be alive. If you have a problem in the world, you have to realize, have faith, realize that you have to go through a process of finding God, of fixing your relationship. You want a kid to help you? You want a kid to love you? He doesn't have to do anything because he's your kid. What you put into the kid is what you can take out. When you put something into a relationship and you love your spouse and you adore your spouse, you take care of your spouse, guess what? You invested, and then when you need your spouse is there for you. We have a relationship with God. Of course, he loves us because we're his kids, of course. But you want to ask him for a favor? Invest. Put money back into the bank account. Fix your relationship with God. And then the check will work. And then Esther can go. After she fixes, repairs the relationship, the broken relationship with God, she can go to Achashverosh and she can beg and plead. And then the check won't bounce. That is very, very profound. Of course, faith is important. Of course, faith is a paramount importance. But guess what? We need to make a vessel. We need to invest. We need to do things which will make the relationship real. Okay, I spoke a lot. We have a little bit of time. 5 minutes of questions. I'm going to stay on after 9 o'clock. Please, David, fire away. I see there are 11 messages in the chat box.
Sure. So I think that mostly it was, people saying how nice the class has been, how much they appreciate it, but they had to jump. So
okay, no problem.
I don't see any questions as yet.
If anyone has any questions, if you could please text them to David. And I just really took away the punchline. Forgive me. I took away, I took away the answers and everything. We're unmuting, so whoever wants to say something, please feel free to speak. It'll be faster than typing. If anyone has any questions, anything you'd like me to go over, now's a great time. And I said, truth be told, you have, those of you who have the textbook, you can look at the textbook. I just summarized it. I just did the bottom line, summary of it. Those of you, if you want to register, just email us, and your email, because if things change or something like that, we want to have a way of engaging everyone.
You have the ability to unmute if you have a question.
If you press the thing, you can unmute now. If anyone has any questions. It's okay. So wow. So I'm sorry I rushed through the end. Next class, next Wednesday night, I will pace myself better and I won't have to make a summary so fast. But the bottom line is, of course, there is anti-Semitism, bless you. Of course, the incidents of anti-Semitism have increased. Bottom line is, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, that's the first 3 Hebrew letters of the alphabet. Aleph stands for Emunah, faith. Beis stands for B'tachin, trust. You do Aleph, you have faith. You have B'tachin. You don't just rely on miracles. You make a vessel. You got to write the check, but you got to have money in the account. Then Gimel, Geula, everyone will go out of their problems. Everyone will go out of their hardships. And please stay tuned. Rabbi Jacobson will be back. Thanks to Steve Pollack. And it's been a pleasure. And these classes are not just regurgitating. They're not just going over anti-Semitic incidents and regurgitating surveys. These classes are geared in a profound way to understand the concept, to understand. You know what? I hate to do this, but the first president of the Shanti Chabad House at Ohio State University wrote a paper, and we still have a little bit of time. Dan Newman, from 30 years ago, he wrote a paper about anti-Semitism recently. Do you want to say something? I shouldn't put you. You know why I'm doing it? Because your mom is on, and she deserves. If you want to say what you wrote in the paper about anti-Semitism, I can't help it. I love Dan Newman. Dan, you want to say something?
Thanks. Yeah, there was we put together a white paper on critical social justice and how it fans the flames of anti-Semitism. So we have there's anti-Semitism coming from all areas, from the right and from the left. This paper is kind of delving into anti-Semitism that's starting to stem from the left. More than welcome to download it. If you go to jilv.org/white paper, you'll be able to download it right from the website.
Okay, thank you. And then I want to put in, please, we have a, you get what you elect for. It's very, very important to vote. And we do have a very nice, very special judge, Cindy Ebner. And she's a good person who I personally know. She has the rabbi's kosher stamp. And she's a good person. She has Rahmana, she has mercy, and at the same time she administers justice. I'm not telling you, Chas v'Shalom, what to do. It's your private decision. But all I can tell you is I like Cindy Ebner. So if you want to vote Cindy Ebner, it's a nice thing. But I'm not telling you, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, what to do. Anyway, this advertisement was brought to you by Sidney Ebner. No, I'm joking. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Hey,
But,
Daniel,
Judge, yes.
Daniel, can you give me that website again? I'd like to put it in the chat window so people can kind of
certainly.
grab it.
Certainly, it's JILV.org, and then you can. It'll say right on the front page, but you also afterwards do /white paper.
Okay, let me make sure I have this right. JLIV.org /white paper.
No, I'm sorry. It's JILV.org/white paper.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We started on time, 7:30. We're finishing on time. Thank you. Thank you. Next Wednesday, 7:30, we're back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Hi, Juno.
Thank you. Thank you.
Say hi.
Hey, Gino.